inventions, all these things are controlled by Mercury. Or not that they control by Mercury, but they follow the same pattern as Mercury's movements in the sky. So we see that when Mercury goes retrograde, those particular events seem to happen very reliably. And that's an observation that has been carried out over thousands and thousands of years of human experience. It's not that Mercury is controlling those things, it's that those things operate on the same time cycles. Everything goes by cycles. Look at the seasons, look at the day and the night, look at human life and everything. It all follows certain patterns, and those patterns are similar to the patterns of the movements of the stars and planets. That's all. So really, astrology is a way of knowing what time it is. Where are we at in the universal fractal cycles of time? Like Mars, the motions of Mars seem to correlate with the cycles of war. That's why Mars is known as the planet of war. The movements of Jupiter seem to go in time with expansion, progress, optimism, like that. And those of Saturn seem to go in time with limitation and contraction and those kind of cycles. So when we see these different cycles in the planetary motions of the sky, we can say, based on our experience only, that these phenomena are going to take place in human society. Not because the planets are controlling those phenomena, but because the natural cycles of those phenomena happen to go in the same pattern of time as the planets. That's all. That way we get out of making these unwarranted assumptions that there's some cause and effect relationship. It happens that those demigods that embody those planets, or that inhabit the bodies of the planets, they have particular qualities, personal qualities, that match those phenomena that we're observing here on Earth on the human level. And when their lives go through those particular changes, we observe those similar changes on the human level. That's all. Because time is the only thing that's the same everywhere. Time is the only really universal phenomenon that ties everything together. So, Western astrology is a whole different thing. And the biggest difference between Jyotish and Western astrology is called the Ayanamsa. Oops. Ayanamsa. The Ayanamsa, should be nasal. Ayanamsa is the difference between the directly observed physical location of the planets in the sky and their astrological location. And for Vedic astrology, the Ayanamsa is 0. In Vedic astrology, excuse me, the planets are located in the chart in the same exact position that they are in the sky. Makes a lot of sense, right? And that way the chart is a map of the sky at the time of a person's birth. But Western astrology uses an Ayanamsa of 23, I think it's 2340 now. 23 degrees 40 minutes. That means for every position of a planet in the sky at the time of a person's birth, we add 23 degrees and 40 minutes to that position.
Why?
I knew somebody was going to ask why. It doesn't make sense, does it? Why would you want to do that? Well, because when Vedic astrology was being translated into Western languages, actually it was translated from Sanskrit to Persian, and then from Persian into Latin and Greek, and then from Latin and Greek into the more modern Romance languages. Let me just finish explaining this and I'll get your question. It was translated by a person named Pliny the Younger. He was a scholar. And he read in the original literature, in the Persian translation actually, that the vernal equinox, the beginning of spring, is located at 0 degrees Aries. Okay? And at that time, it was. But there's this phenomenon called the precession of the equinoxes that takes place every 26,000 some odd years, that the vernal equinox goes all the way around the zodiac. So when the translation was made, I guess that was about 2,500 years ago, the vernal equinox really was at 0 degrees Aries. But now it's in Aquarius, almost in Aquarius. So it's gone all the way through Pisces. From 0 degrees Aries, it's gone all the way back. It goes in retrograde motion. So it goes from Aries back through Pisces, and now it's almost ready to go into Aquarius. The so-called age of Aquarius is due to the position of the vernal equinox on the physical zodiac. But that doesn't mean that the position of Aries changes. Aries is a constellation in the background of the so-called fixed stars, right? But the Western astrologers said, no, wait a minute. As the vernal equinox moves, so does the whole zodiac. In other words, they got it exactly backwards. They said the vernal equinox is moving, so the whole zodiac has to move too. No, people, it doesn't mean that. But it was too late. The Western astrologers took it that way. And so as the vernal equinox has moved all the way from 0 Aries back through Pisces and almost into Aquarius now, they have also gone and changed the position of Aries in the sky so that it doesn't match the physical constellations anymore. Duh. This is one of the first things that struck me about Western astrology when I tried to study it some time ago, because I had studied astronomy as a kid. It was like my hobby. I had a telescope and the whole thing. And, you know, it's like, I can see where Mars is in the sky. You know, there it is in Pisces, let's say. I can see it in the sky or in my telescope. And then I look in the paper and it says, Mars is in Aries? Wait a minute, I just saw it in Pisces last night. What are they talking about? See? Or the sun. You know, if you plot the position of the sun in the sky, and they say, well, it goes into, you know, such and such a sign on this date. Right? But if you look up in the sky, it's not there. It's in the sign, one sign back. So what are they talking about? It seemed really crazy to me. Like, you know, why are they? Yeah, who would do this? Why would they make it so confusing? Well, it's just because of a translation error. But the translation error then became enshrined as dogma. It's been passed down ever since. And so this is why when you read the little horoscope in the paper every day, it doesn't make any sense. And that's why when you get a Western astrology chart done, the houses and the signs are all like two separate things, and it's very confusing. The reason they have to do this is so that they have some way of making some kind of predictions that make any sense at all, or some kind of reading that make any sense at all. And it makes astrology unnecessarily complicated. And they've also had to change the meanings of the signs and fudge a whole bunch of stuff, you know, just to get it to work at all. So, Vedic astrology has never had that problem. Another thing is that Western astrology tries to be predictive. They try to predict what's going to happen in the future without having really understood what happened in the past. In other words, Vedic astrology, the predictions that you can make with Vedic astrology are based on what happened in the person's life up until now. So it's like you can't make a sensible prediction from Vedic astrology until the person has lived for some years and you see what are the results of the chart that's cast at the time of birth. You can't make meaningful predictions in Vedic astrology unless you're very, very, very expert. Just by reading a birth chart. It has to be a dialogue with the person, and then you see which planetary positions or which planetary aspects are active in their chart and which are dormant in their chart, according to their spiritual position. And generally, the more spiritually advanced a person is, the less their chart has anything to do with their actual life. Because the chart just represents the karma that's attached to that body. So if a person's very spiritually advanced, they don't have much to do with the body. And so the body's karma and all that doesn't really affect them.